Happy Wild Woman Wednesday. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Wild Woman Wednesday. I'm your host, Christy Christensen, and I'm just so excited to always come back online with you on Wednesdays. Welcome, 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 everyone. My very special guest for today is someone I've known for, I'm not actually even sure, I think about 15 years now. She is an incredible healer. She's a yoga teacher, a yoga therapist, a nurse, someone who is really embodied the wisdom of Ayurvedic medicine and therapy. She is the editor and the editor-in-chief and writer for LA Yoga Magazine and has been for, I don't even know how long. Hi. Welcome, Chantel. Welcome, Princess Caroline Treasures. And I'm just really excited to share her embodied wisdom with you, for her to share a little of her story with you and how she's really transitioned during the last 2 years from running a magazine to kind of bringing in all of her wisdom and knowledge that she has accumulated through her deep study and practice over the last 2 decades into the work she's doing today. So please help me welcome Felicia Tomasko. Let's see if I can invite you, Felicia. See if you'll accept my invitation to join us here live. It's like the moment of truth. I'm like, yay! Oh wait, but I can't go ahead.
Yay!
There we go. Oh, hello, Matthew Reyes. Welcome. Another blast from my yoga past of Los Angeles. Oh, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you?
Good. How are you doing? It's such an honor to be here with you and just to, thank you for such generous introduction. And also, I just have to say, I've known you for obviously a really long
right? Like I was, like 15 years. When did I move to LA? Because I met you at the very.
I know. Well, it's like when you were at Exhale and where you were one of the managers at Exhale, and that's where sort of that history is from. And one of the things that I just really have always felt about you, in terms of knowing you, is what a bright light you are, and how sincere and enthusiastic in terms of your presence, your practice, your teaching. And you're someone for whom all of that really comes together in so many ways, and just all of not just the work you do in the world, but who you are as a person, and that bright light and your focus on what it is to uplift other people and to come from a place of real sincerity and community is something that I have always deeply, deeply, deeply admired.
Wow. I think I'm going to have to go back and listen to that again. I feel so acknowledged in this moment and just so grateful. And, we've gone through many different things together over the last, I'm just going to say decade and a half. I was last on the little graphic, my cover of LA Yoga Magazine back in May 2011, I think. And, most recently with you, giving me the great honor of being one of my pre-readers of my book back a year ago before it came out. And that just meant the world to me, that you took a pause in your busy life to read my book, give me some really inspired feedback, and write me a beautiful endorsement, or whatever they're called, that front covers of the book, which means so much.
Yeah, and I think, for me, kind of seeing your book and reading it, it's such an example of, again, the powerful way that you integrate so many teachings and ways to live them in the world today. And I just kind of think every day, this is what we all need these positive examples of what it is to live in the world and what it is to actually practice yoga in the world. So it's just such a powerful and amazing thing. So I'm so excited for your book, and I love, in the graphic that you made for our conversation, that there was a copy of the cover of Ella Yoga where you were on it, and just who you are as a person and a teacher. And I feel really fortunate to be able to call you a friend. So all of you who are watching us now and live and in afterlife, the afterlife,
I like that in the
the afterlife, right? The live and then the afterlife, the afterlife. Um, it's not just that we're sitting here just gushing over each other, but I think the thing about that is what does it mean to acknowledge the people in our lives, and what does it really mean to celebrate people, because we can have these connections, if we're lucky, for a month, for a year, for 5 years, for 15 years, for longer, if we're lucky, right? And if we're lucky, we can have those connections in life and in the world, but to not ever take any of them for granted. So what can we do to really appreciate the people who are in our lives now, to make sure that we never take them for granted, and that we continue to celebrate them. And especially in the world today, that we face so many challenges and sorrows and heartbreaks on a daily basis. What can we do to celebrate people, to appreciate people, and to continue to do that on a regular basis, and how that really lifts us up individually and collectively.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. So I want to dive into our first question, which does kind of segue from just where we came, is, Felicia, what does it mean to you to be a wild woman?
Wow, it's like I feel, even that this is the title of your talk, it's like, am I really a wild woman, or am I like super
Yes.
boring and like that sense of, can I kind of make it out of bed in the morning and do the things that need to be done? Like, how much pressure is it like to be a wild woman? But I think I think part of what it means is, can we be authentic to ourselves and to others? Can we be willing to say what's on our hearts and on our minds, and to speak those words of appreciation for each other and other people? When we think about, okay, what does it mean to be a wild woman? It doesn't even necessarily mean that we have to be outrageous or anything else, but it can mean that we use our voice in positive ways, and that we come from a place. And I think of, what does it mean to celebrate, and to not feel like we have to, hide ourselves behind some sort of rules that maybe are outdated and no longer work for us. What does it mean to be truthful? What does it mean to celebrate? What does it mean to celebrate our friends and people in our lives? And what does it mean to show up?
And in that moment, I just saw your sister tune in.
My sister, who I have to say just is very, talking about celebrating. Thank you, Joy, for walking the dog, who decided, right, as they always do, that, oh, the camera is on, so it must mean I must start barking and need something. And it's like,
You've got a wild woman cohort.
yeah, exactly, right? And how do we celebrate those people in so many ways in our lives?
You this word celebrate many times. So I'm just curious of, what are the ways in which you celebrate, or what are the ways in which you are celebrating moments in life right now?
I have to say, it's so funny, because the first thing that came to my mind is around food and cooking. And, I often tell people I love to cook. I love all of it. I love mixing spices. I love chopping vegetables. I love putting things together. I love, sharing food with other people. And I think during the time when we were more isolated and not having the opportunity to do that, and then, being able to do that for more people. So I love cooking for my sister. It was fun because the last time I got to see, you know, Christy, this amazing wild woman in person, was, over at my house for food and for sharing food and a meal. And so even though, that seems so simple, for me, it really is an aspect of celebration of what does it mean to share, food as that representation of nourishment, love, the ways in which we nourish ourselves. And food is such an important part of Ayurveda and Ayurvedic medicine. And how do we nourish and nurture ourselves? And how do we do that in community and with each other and in ways that are celebratory? So, how do we have a positive, healthy relationship with food? How do we see it as truly nurturing and nourishing ourselves? And how do we include that in community and in celebrations, right? We spend our holidays with food and eating. We spend, time in social gatherings. And that's something that's really important to me, is, how to do that alone and how to do that with others.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think this idea that celebration has to be this big, extravagant thing,
Right.
right? And then how we can find, like, in these daily moments that could be mundane or could be, something of great meaning and depth, and just how we reframe things in the place in which we share from, right? And the experience that we bring to them. And then there's that opportunity for that meal to, hit us on all the layers of the koshas, right? Like,
Right.
physical body, our energetic body, our emotional body, our wisdom body, and then the bliss body of being in community and connection with each other. Um, Felicia, you have,
Absolutely. Yeah. And just and thinking about that, and I think what you said too is like, we tend to look for sometimes these peak experiences, and how do we find them in the ordinary? How do we find them in the everyday? How do we have a dance party in our living room? How do we have a celebratory meal for breakfast? And right, all these things. And those are the also things that can feed us and nourish us in times of challenge.
absolutely. Felicia, you have so much wisdom and knowledge and so decades of study and practice in yoga and Ayurveda and yoga therapy and nursing. And, I'm sure I'm missing, missing many things. Um, how did your spiritual journey, how did your yogic journey begin? What guided you on this path of healing, transformation, awakening?
I think for me, how there are times when, we just kind of seek out things in our lives. And I do feel like, reflecting on myself or my own life and anything else, I feel like I was definitely born a seeker, and just kind of looking and always looking for these things. And I usually, say and kind of tell people that my journey in yoga started in high school English, American English Lit, right? And reading Emerson and Thoreau. And Emerson and Thoreau were very famously influenced by the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita, and Hindu philosophy and yogic philosophy. And there was something in kind of that view of the world, and in those writings, and in the relationship with nature, and in the relationship with self-actualization and everything else, that really spoke to me as, sort of the rebellious teenager that many of us, you know, are, have been, or continue to be. Right. Sometimes I feel like I'm continuing to be a rebellious teenager as a middle-aged person. But
I get
that so that piece um, of that, and then I just started like reading about yoga and seeking it out and looking for it, and looking for classes and teacher trainings and Ayurvedic classes, and wherever I could. And it's sort of been just really part of my life in a way that I can't really imagine my life without it. And one of the things that is so fun is one of the places I teach is at Loyola Marymount University, where in the Center for Religion and Spirituality, they have a yoga studies, and in the College of Liberal Arts, they have a yoga studies department. one of the teachers, Sarah Harrington, who has her master's degree from LMU, she taught a class this last fall on yoga and American literature. And I was so excited to take it. And it was so much fun. And it felt like this opportunity to have this kind of full circle personal journey in yoga, where my journey in yoga began with American writers, and then, coming to that, and then also diving into, what does it mean to be a student on the spiritual path that lasts a lifetime, and what does it mean to do that in so many different ways, and have, for me, I've had many different teachers, and I've um, been fortunate to go to India, and I've been fortunate to have a really regular meditation practice, and fortunate enough to, have lived in Los Angeles and had the opportunity to study with many great teachers, and also just continue to find the creativity on being on the mat. And I also feel like the world seems like a challenging place right now, or maybe it always does, and maybe that's the nature of the world. And I do feel like coming back to these spiritual practices and these meditations and writings and all of it is a place of regeneration and solace and restoration.
You may have just answered this question partly, but what is the biggest thing that you have learned on this journey of spiritual practice?
That's a really good question, and I think one thing, reflecting on this a few years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I went through cancer treatment. And there was a part of it at the beginning. I thought, okay, well, I have done yoga for all these years, and I have meditated, and I have eaten my body weight in turmeric. I have meditated longer than, my dog has been alive, or whatever it is, right? And so I'm like, why did this, I should have done I did everything that should have prevented this. So I think the lesson was not that these practices give us some kind of magical, get out of jail free card, right? Like there's no magical get out of jail free card. But what there is, and I really felt this, going at that time and now and every single day, is that in moments of, fatigue, heartbreak, despair, challenge, that there is a source of resilience. And that has been, I think, the most important lesson to me, that instead of a get out of jail free card, you get a, card for strength and resilience. And also too, I sort of joke, and I think this comes from meditating or practicing or utilizing the principles of Ayurveda, is that, I joke sometimes that sleep is my superpower, that I do have the ability to sleep really, really deeply and well. And even if I have had a really hard day, like a crying at the end of the day, which I'm sure nobody understands what that's like, right? Where you're just tired and you cannot speak to another person, and you're just like, you know, and to be able to go to sleep and then wake up in the morning and feel a sense of a new day and a new beginning and a new rest. And I think that is something that the teachings and the practices also give, is what does it mean when you are exhausted to be able to recharge?
So powerful. I We had a few weeks ago, Tracy Stanley was on, and we really talked about the power of rest and really that permission, like actually giving yourself permission to rest, and how important it is, and how maybe undervalued in society at large, right? That it is considered. So I love that you said it is your superpower, or one of. I'll just say it's one of your superpowers, because I know you've got many.
No, but I think, and it's so funny because I had said that, and somebody I know said something to me the other day, Felicia, if I could have a superpower, I thought about what you said. Sleep would be great because you wake up every day feeling refreshed. I'm like, and I love that you and Tracy Stanley talked about that. And I think her voice is so important in this way of what does it mean to give ourselves permission to rest, because it is not one of those things that we do often enough.
During the the initial phases of the pandemic, you were still producing a magazine called LA Yoga Magazine that I don't actually know how many years it's been in existence.
A lot. I think this year might be 20 years. We're not producing it in print right now, but we're still doing, an email newsletter and online and digital initiatives and everything else. So we're still doing a lot with LA Yoga Magazine. But anyway, going back to,
Yeah,
yeah.
I just, you would, this is what popped into my mind when you were sharing about how magical it was of this coming together of, or this recircling of the literature of which you began and got inspired by yoga, and then them coming back together, all these years later. And I think in your life, there's so many things that have happened so beautifully. You've taken your expertise from all these different areas and birthed new opportunities and experiences that are incredible. And I can say even probably the birth of LA Yoga Magazine was similar, of you taking your skills as a writer and as an editor and for your deep love of yoga and as yourself as a teacher, and then birthing this beautiful magazine to really serve not just the greater Los Angeles area, it was also through, it circulated through Northern California as well, correct?
Yes.
And all of that, and then the pandemic hitting, and then you realizing, oh wait, my skills are also needed elsewhere. So can you talk a little bit about how you pivoted during the pandemic and what guided you
Yeah.
to the today?
It's so interesting because so I've studied yoga and Ayurveda and everything for so many years and have been, a writer and editor, and that's been a big part of my identity in my life. But I also have a nursing degree, and throughout, all the time of running LA Yoga Magazine and everything else, even though I never worked, or not never, even though I did not work as a nurse during that time, I kept my nursing license active. And so, actually, I think during the very first month of the pandemic, when everything shut down, I had already kind of dusted off like some of my certifications and everything else, and I started in May of 2020. During like the pandemic lockdowns and everything else, I started working in person as a nurse in mental health, and so that has been an extremely rewarding experience. And working as a nurse in mental health, I have also been utilize all of my practices of yoga and Ayurveda and meditation. And I work with teenagers and young adults, and I teach meditation skills. I utilize all of the things related to yoga, Ayurveda, mindfulness, and meditation in that work. So it's a way of, again, things coming together, and in such a way, it's so interesting teaching teenagers and teaching people who are at the age that I was when I started practicing yoga and meditation, and to teach meditation to people who are at the age that I was when I first learned meditation, when I was seeking it out and when I was looking for something to really be that aid and support for, what it is to kind of go through life as a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Not easy.
not easy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And I love this so much because, you know, you had, for whatever reason, you had that voice inside that said, keep this license up, right? That you've really been able to really merge, all this
Hmm.
wisdom, share it with these kids, right? And how powerful, what powerful tools that you're giving them, and
Yeah.
I'm sure impacting their healing and transforming their lives in really big ways. I know meditation is so important to the work you do. Um, may I put you on the spot and ask you to guide us through maybe just like a micro meditation so people can have an experience of your voice? Because I know there's lots of ways that people can experience classes on Glow and at LMU and elsewhere. Would you be willing to do that for
Sure.
us?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. I don't mind being put on the spot. It's funny because they, at the where I work, as a nurse, one of the groups did that. They're like, Felicia, can you just lead a meditation right now before they start this, therapy group? I'm like, sure. And then they were like, well, we put you on the spot. I'm like, but that's what I do, right? So one of the things, and I love that you asked this too, because meditation is something that it doesn't have to be, okay, we have this block of time, or we have to do 20 minutes, or we have to do an hour, or we have to do lots of special techniques. It can be as short as a minute. It could be as short as a few seconds. And it's a way for us to continue to bring ourselves back to our own personal center. It can be an anchor that grounds us into the present moment. So let's go ahead and find a comfortable yet alert position. So whatever that means to you. You can adjust, you can fidget, so comfortable yet alert. And just kind of tune in a little bit to the rhythm of your breath. And as you tune into the rhythm of your breath, eyes open or closed, just allow your breath to naturally become a little bit slower. Maybe even naturally a little bit deeper. Maybe even naturally a little bit more expansive. Maybe you feel your shoulders relax. Maybe feel your face relax. Maybe feel your eyes relax. And in this present moment experience, simply noticing your body, your breath, your mind, your heart, your spirit, your embodied self in this moment. Noticing the support beneath you or behind you, wherever you are sitting or standing or laying down or reclining or walking. And if distractions arise, remember that it is the nature of the mind to be distracted, and just have compassion for those distractions and bring yourself back to the breath. Feeling the body relax into the experience of the breath. And then we'll transition together into a state of greater alertness. So bring your attention to your inhalation, maybe even exaggerate and expand the inhalation, feeling yourself wake up, feeling that sense of being connected and continuing to be connected to being embodied, aware, alert, awake. And maybe even reach your arms up, or maybe even wiggle your fingers or stretch your hands or fidget, move, and then allow your eyes to open. Right, and we can just keep coming back to that sense of what is it to breathe, what is it to connect, and what is it to remember that meditation doesn't have to be something where our mind goes blank. We don't have to judge ourselves for our distractions, and sometimes our distractions can even be part of what grounds us into the moment of time and space and the present.
I love it. I love it. And it's, even though this is part of my life, it's always like you have that wow moment of like, wow, like everything just shifted in those few moments, right?
Mm-hmm.
I energetically feel so much more centered. I feel so much more at peace. I just feel so much even more me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I love the idea of having the micro practices available, right? For people that sitting for 20 minutes just feels like I'll never do it, I will fail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that start here and have these moments
Yeah.
of recalibrate, to awaken, to return home to that luxuriousness of the breath and being in this wild woman body, I'll just say.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Please,
you.
the time goes. I would love for you to just share with people of how people can continue to connect with you. How can they find more about your work, more about LA Yoga? Yeah, anything and everything you'd like to share, please.
Oh, thank you so much, Christy. That's really kind. So LA Yoga is at layoga.com, and we, have different stories, articles. I've seen actually some names of people like Desi Bartlett, who regularly writes and contributes, and um, Bree, who has, been a designer for a long time and just does really beautiful, amazing work and has designed a lot of LA Yoga magazines. And so layoga.com is still a great resource. And I'm actually updating some things later today. And we send out an email newsletter, which you can sign up for on the site. We share a lot about different things happening throughout Los Angeles and beyond, and, different kinds of wisdom and different the importance of different things that we need to do to lift each other up. And I'm here on Instagram. You've inspired me to be a little bit more active. I do teach on Glow, which is a subscription website, glo.com, and I have a lot of archive of meditations and yoga classes and everything else. So yeah, so I just you can reach out to me here. I look forward to connecting, and I hope that everybody continues to find ways to celebrate themselves and each other on a daily basis. And, please read Christy's book if you haven't already. And, it's just a real honor to be able to share time with you, Christy, and to share time with everybody who is here watching this live and in the afterlife. Afterlife.
I will copyright you. And I will include all the websites in the show notes that Felicia mentioned, so you can very easily access both her Instagram accounts and follow LA Yoga and Glow and experience a lot of the beautiful work that she is sharing and inspiring others in the world. Thank you so much, Felicia. We'll definitely have to have you back and go deeper into other different things, but just such a joy and a pleasure. And thank you to everyone who dropped in, stayed the whole time, and everyone who's watching this in the afterlife. And we'll look forward to having you back here next week. Happy Wild Women.
Thank you so much. And I'll look forward to tuning in next week to hear who you're interviewing. And thank you so much, Christy. I really appreciate you and everything you do in the world.
Likewise. And I look forward to celebrating over some more food when I get back to LA very soon.
Yes, come back for food.